From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Morning Edition.
Good morning and welcome to our Saturday showcase. I'm Max Darrow. Here's what's ahead. We begin today with neglect. In a moment, we'll head to the East Bay, where a debate is taking place between where do we go and what comes next. But first we go to North Beach, where the million-dollar question is simply, what do we do now? For more than 100 years, the Verdi building has stood on the corner of Columbus and Union in North Beach. But today, it is a ruin, crumbling away. The building caught fire in 2013 and then again in 2018. The flames spared nothing inside, but the shell and facade remain. Nobody wants to see it stay the way it is, but what to do with it remains the million-dollar question. If it were up to Catherine Petrin, who's helping champion North Beach's historic district designation.
It's at the symbolic heart of North Beach, right across from Washington Square Park. It's a busy corner. There's every reason to save the building. It still has the potential to be a thing of beauty and to, recall this Italian palazzo that was the inspiration to the architects that designed it.
Her ideal proposal, bring the building back to life with new housing while preserving the historic facade.
For over a century, it has been one of the most distinctive architectural buildings in North Beach. It would be great if what's coming is of the right scale instead of like a tower. There's every reason to think that this building could be rebuilt using the existing walls.
A plan for that was in the works, but now the Verdi building's part owner, Jeff Juro, has changed course. He'd like to demolish it and start from scratch. His proposal, a mixed-use site with retail, housing, a hotel, and rooftop restaurant. He declined to be interviewed on camera, but he tells us, our proposed project is far superior in every way to a burned-out building that has remained in its current condition for far too long. Juro added preservation would be too expensive and says, we respectfully disagree with those who believe demolishing the walls would destroy this corner of North Beach. North Beach is much more than 4 burned-out walls. The walls themselves are not particularly significant or unique. Juro hopes to have his plans approved before the state decides on the historic district designation, as he believes there is no path forward if that happens. He plans to try and utilize pro-housing state laws to expedite the project.
I don't know what the proposed project looks like for this site, but I do know that a 24-story tower would be allowed, and I just don't think that that's the right solution for this site. This is not an anti-housing stance. It's just a very symbolic building and symbolic corner, and that would not be the right project at this site.
Petrin does believe a project needs to push forward, but says the site's future shouldn't push its past aside.
That buildings like this will never be built again, and I think we should do everything we can to save it, to restore it, to return it to its former glory.
We'll be watching what happens there. To Berkeley now, where ethics and encampments are at a crossroads. Here's Suji Nam.
I never had these signs before, and now I've had to post them, and I've gotten these signs from the city of Berkeley and also from the police department.
Hossein Attar owns this rental property along Martin Luther King Jr. Way in Berkeley, mere steps away from Ohlone Park. He says he is running out of options to keep his tenants, UC Berkeley students, safe from the homeless encampments.
Started out with 3 or 4 tents, then it got 5, 6, 12, 15, 20. Now I think we're up to almost 50 tents.
Attar says he began noticing tents pop up about a year ago, wedged between the dog park.
Homeless people going into my backyard. I've had a knife pulled on me in my own backyard. I've had people shooting up in the backyard.
A sign is posted at the front of Ohlone Park prohibiting unattended property and overnight camping. But that is not the reality.
Sad display of just poverty. This isn't fair for them. This isn't fair for us.
Attar is part of the Save Ohlone Park group, where residents are calling on city officials to provide increased community safety and provide shelter for the unhoused.
The city says they're going to do stuff, but we haven't seen them do one thing. All they've done is built a fence around City Hall and pushed the problem into the park.
The city is facing a barrier to building more shelters, a nearly $27 million budget deficit in the next fiscal year. A city spokesperson responded to our request for comment, saying they're working to find solutions, but wouldn't comment further.
There's no resolution in there. All it does is create a problem that is based on a punitive reaction.
Paul Kealoha Blake of Where Do We Go Berkeley, a nonprofit organization that provides legal aid and resources to the unhoused, says sweeps are ineffective and inhumane. He feels there should be collaboration in making more shelters available.
They do not work. They remove the people from our site. That works, I guess, but it doesn't really work on the real issues. The real issues are a lot deeper and a lot more complex than that.
And for neighbors like Attar,
When I was growing up here as a kid, people would play in the park, people would have picnics, kids would go out and study in the park, and now people are afraid to go in the park.
hoping to erase that fear with a solution that works for all involved.
Chief Meteorologist Paul Hagan is in for Zoe today. He's got a look at what you can expect as you head out the door on this Saturday morning.
We've arrived at the weekend, and we have arrived at the start of a breezy pattern. The wind's really picking up as we head through today. The wind is noticeable already this morning, but the strongest winds kick in from midday through the afternoon. On a widespread basis, we're talking 30 to 40 mile an hour gusts, but at the coast especially, some gusts in the 40 to 50 mile an hour range could result in some minor tree damage, maybe even a couple of power outages, but those winds should die down as we head through tonight. That onshore breeze combined with just a cooler air mass resulting in temperatures a little below average, 60s around the bay, a mix of 60s and 70s inland, but we'll put some 80s back on the map for tomorrow. Details coming up in the full forecast.
Coming up, meet the Hardwood Classics and the dance team keeping the golden year in Golden State. Stay with me. Patience is said to be the companion of wisdom, but for these seniors, it might also be the companion of persistence. Len Ramirez will soon introduce us to some senior stars at a South Bay Film Festival. But first, a geriatric groover. Here's Lorene Ayub on a Warrior Wonder.
Rehearsing for an NBA playoffs performance. It's something dancer Annie Nishita with the Hardwood Classics says she could only dream of growing up. Now the diehard Warriors fan and dancer is living up a new chapter in her life.
I can't believe that it's been a dream come true. I always watched the Warrior girls when they danced and wanted to be like them.
And now, at 68, she is one of them. As the senior squad prepared to grace the court during Game 4 between the Warriors and Timberwolves, Annie says the positivity of the Warriors community gave her the courage to join the team, even without prior dance experience. She says team director Sabrina Ellison always believed in her.
Sabrina picks the best people. She doesn't pick anybody that's going to be a diva or going to think that they're better than somebody else. She picks people like her who are open and full of love and acceptance, and I think that's the way the whole Warrior organization is, actually.
And it is that passion that fuels them right before they perform.
This is the tunnel the dancers are about to walk through. All the hard work, it's right here. Let's check it out.
Annie says she loves showing other women that age does not have to define you and that it is never too late to follow your dreams.
No matter how much experience or how good that we dance or how old we are, they don't treat us like we're grandmas or anything. They treat us like equals, and they're just the best. The whole dance community here at the Warriors is really just a big, huge family, and we all celebrate each other.
A team that believes, no matter the circumstances.
Never too late to find a new passion. To San Jose now, and some baby boomers under the bright lights. Here's Len Ramirez.
How's it going? Yeah. Okay.
The stars of the films made their way down the red carpet, some of them needing a helping hand along the way, but all of them dressed in their finest, pausing midway for the paparazzi. And cutting through the crowd was Mary Lou Bradley, whose acts of kindness were shown in the film From Our Pantry to Their Plate. It's a documentary short about how the residents of Belmont Village, San Jose, volunteer at the South Valley Fish Food Pantry, which serves groceries to families in need.
We had taken a trip there, and so we got to talk with the staff, and they showed us around the facility, and I was so impressed with what they do and how they care about the people they serve. I'm sorry.
Making the film was close to the heart for Mary Lou, a retired social worker from San Mateo County who obviously still cares deeply about helping people in need. Cinematographer and editor Lisa Newhouse says that's a big part of why the film festival came to be.
Getting to watch the residents give back to the community was absolutely amazing. It doesn't matter their age. They've all been able to have so many life experiences that they understand the importance of community and giving back.
Seniors in several Belmont Village communities in the Bay Area and Arizona made films that spotlight their year-round philanthropic work and the nonprofits they partner with, including schools, food pantries, homeless services, and women's shelters.
Angels, our resident volunteer group.
We noticed that when we share the stories of what our residents are doing, it can inspire others to participate. And so we were hoping that younger generations would be inspired to give back and participate as well.
I think it's absolutely amazing that they're providing this amount of food for people that don't have it.
When Mary Lou's movie premiered on the screen, she watched with her friends and neighbors, now leading ladies in their long overdue debut. And as the credits rolled, there were feelings of pride and accomplishment for not only a great film, but a life filled with giving to others.
Looks like a wonderful event there in the South Bay. After the break, an ancient Chinese tradition known as Tomb Sweeping Day. We take you to a Qingming ceremony. Next, stay with us. May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and for some people in the South Bay, it's a reminder to remember. Here's Mary Lee on Qingming.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara Tom is 86 years young and a proud Chinese American.
I reserved it today to be here, and I wanted to be here, as I am, you know.
Barbara has always observed Qingming Festival ever since she was a little girl. Qingming is a Chinese spring ritual where families pay tribute to their ancestors and visit their graves.
We folded over 1,000 papers and then sewed them in like a little leg so that it won't fly all over, as they did one year.
Barbara and several volunteers folded these silver and gold paper money offerings for Qingming. It was Barbara's idea to turn them into these beautiful leis.
This is the kind of like altar, you know, to honor all the people that buried behind this altar. Behind this altar is around 300 gravesite over there.
The first Chinese pioneers in the South Bay were buried here in the South Bay Historic Chinese American Cemetery. That's because in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Chinese were not allowed to be buried anywhere else.
All the 300 people, all the names in here.
And this is the original book?
Yeah, the original book. When they bury, they record it over there.
Every person buried in this cemetery is recorded in these books, from the day they were born, the Chinese village and province they were from, and the day they passed away. During this special Qingming ceremony, people read the names of these brave Chinese pioneers who lived and died here in the South Bay. For Selena Wang, who was born in San Jose, Qingming is a meaningful experience to connect to our culture and community.
I think it feels amazing. I think knowing what my ancestors went through
what the generation before me went through. It all just informs how I make my decisions today and how I understand my culture and my history.
From grave robberies and vandalism to the rebuilding of the cemetery, which accidentally destroyed many of the original tombstones, the South Bay Chinese community has worked incredibly hard to bring this cemetery back to life.
All the tombstones were mistakenly thrown away, so we only save a few of the tombstone, fragments of the tombstones right by the altar there.
You know, sometimes when something bad happens, you shudder. But in this case, having, you know, almost destroying our altar here, the community, people around here got together and decided that we have to honor it, and they did.
At this year's Qingming ceremony, they unveiled a new monument memorializing our first Chinese pioneers. All 300 names are carved into this monument. Generations of Chinese Americans stand here today to remember and honor them, grateful for their contributions and sacrifices, knowing they are here because of them.
A breezy weather pattern settling in now that we've arrived at the weekend. The strongest winds are going to occur today, and this is going to be a straight onshore breeze as a storm system passing to our north is going to not only send a cooler air mass into the Bay Area, but it's also going to allow the winds to get picked up as the atmosphere gets squeezed overhead, and that onshore wind is going to reinforce the already cooler air and push that marine air farther and farther inland. Now, the wind is still going to be noticeable on Sunday, but the change that kicks in is that the winds are going to shift. Instead of a straight onshore breeze at the coast, the winds are going to be running parallel to the coastline and farther inland, more of a twist to become an offshore wind, particularly farther into the Delta and then Solano County. And that's why we're monitoring the potential for an elevated wind threat and an elevated fire threat as we head into the beginning of next week. A fire weather watch is in effect for Solano County and for much of the Central Valley as we begin the work week. We're going to continue monitoring that scenario in case that threat does spread into some of the higher elevations of the North Bay or potentially inland in the East Bay. Not the most likely scenario, but still something that we're going to have to monitor just to be on the safe side. Let's talk about the specific wind speeds that are going to be with us for the next couple of days. Again, varies by community, but you can see just the colors in the background on our wind chart here. It's going to be windy all day and pretty much across the board. Some of the strongest gusts are going to be at the coast. The winds, again, picking up tomorrow, but it's that change in direction that's going to be more of a concern. Sunday, as that wind pivots, it's going to allow our skies to clear, and we're going to see a return to basically normal temperatures. Now, the storm system squeezing the atmosphere overhead, it's not going to result in much more than just some cloud cover passing through, mainly into early afternoon. I think we'll see more breaks in the clouds late today and into this evening. In terms of a sprinkle chance, can't rule it out, but this system just does not have access to a whole lot of moisture. Let's talk about the temperatures, where they're going to top out later on today, and they're going to be limited, running for the most part about 4 to 6 degrees below average inland, only upper 60s in the Santa Clara Valley, 68 degrees in San Jose, normal high is 74. You are going to make it up into the mid, maybe even upper 70s around Antioch and Brentwood, same thing for Fairfield, otherwise low 70s in Concord, upper 60s in Livermore, 60s around the Bay, just 50s at the coast. Inland in the North Bay, you're going to be a little bit less cool with temperatures reaching up to a mix of a few upper 60s and some low to mid 70s on the map by this afternoon. Let's take a look at the 7-day forecast. And we do have some ups and downs. Those ups and downs are very gentle at the coast. We are going to see a warm up back to normal temperatures on Sunday and then low to mid 60s from Monday through Thursday before we back down at the end of the work week and as we head into Memorial Day weekend. Now, don't worry too much about that cool down on Friday. It does look like temperatures should bounce back as we head into the holiday weekend itself. It's just beyond the scope of the 7-day forecast, but it gives us something to look forward to. Bayside, we're talking about 4 straight days of mid to upper 70s from Monday through Thursday before we return to basically normal temperatures by Friday. Temperatures inland, those are going to have the biggest ups and downs. Upper 60s and low 70s today, near 80 tomorrow, and then mid to upper 80s Monday through Thursday before an abrupt drop back to basically normal temperatures to finish the work week.
Still to come, chronic pain and chronic gain. How drugs are impacting studies for the better. Stay with us.
From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Morning Edition.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us for our Saturday Showcase. I'm Max Darrow. We continue now with a new topic, from legalization to education to innovation. we turn to drugs and their academic exploration. In just a moment, Suji Nam will take us to Cal State East Bay to take one of the nation's first courses in cannabis. But first, mushrooms working magic. Why psilocybin is being taken seriously when it comes to treating Parkinson's. On a quiet plot of land in rural New Mexico, Jeff Deming feels like he's really living once again.
Mentally, just night and day.
He's able to do the things that make him happy, like woodworking, despite living with Parkinson's disease.
And I'll be honest with you, I mean, physically, I feel better than I did 2-3 years ago.
And Jeff credits treatment he received during a first-of-its-kind clinical study he participated in at UCSF, psilocybin therapy for people with Parkinson's.
This is very cliche, but it truly gave me my life back.
Psilocybin is a naturally occurring psychedelic compound found in so-called magic mushrooms. When administered in a controlled clinical setting, it's shown promise in treating depression and anxiety, both of which are mood symptoms that go hand in hand with Parkinson's that are linked to a faster physical decline.
We were really surprised by how well this trial went.
Dr. Ellen Bradley and a team of researchers at UCSF are trying to figure out how psilocybin may help treat mood dysfunction and more in those living with this neurodegenerative disease.
This is a first step, and now we've opened the door to being able to really investigate the effects of psilocybin for people with Parkinson's.
12 patients participated in the study, which started and finished here, with transcranial magnetic stimulation, as demonstrated here by her team, to look at the brain before and after 2 psilocybin therapy sessions.
We want to find out not just does psilocybin therapy work, but if it does, and how does it work? And that mechanistic piece is so important. Can it change the brain's ability to adapt to its environment and rewire itself?
Per the study, all 12 Parkinson's patients were able to receive 2 doses of psilocybin 2 weeks apart without any serious side effects. Now, every patient didn't have the same life-changing experience as Jeff says he did, and that was to be expected, says Bradley. But others did also report improvement with their motor and cognitive functions.
So that was really exciting just to see that promising safety profile in this initial pilot that kind of gives us, a green light to go forward with more in-depth research. We really desperately need new treatments for Parkinson's. We really feel like we have to be investigating every possible route that could mean new treatments for patients.
Something about this experience just freed everything back up so that I could think again, I could dream again.
Jeff is now 2 years removed from his controlled psilocybin dosing, and he says he feels better now than he did when he was diagnosed 4 years ago.
There's been such stigma against the research with it.
He'd like to see more research into psychedelic therapies for a variety of conditions.
It is definitely worth looking more closely at.
All with the hope that maybe more people will also be able to reclaim the reins of life. Now to the East Bay, where cannabis in the classroom is helping students expand their minds. Here's Suji Nam.
Gina O'Hara has been a consultant and technical writer for traditional pharmaceutical companies for the past 30 years. But she was up for a change and soon found herself diving into the cannabis industry.
When it became legalized here and lots of friends and things were going to dispensaries and stuff, began trying things, but I was more interested in the medicinal aspects of it.
O'Hara discovered Green Flowers Cannabis Certification course at Cal State East Bay, a 6-month online program.
Cannabis plant itself and how it works in the body and stuff. After everyone takes that, you can kind of specialize into different fields.
Different fields like agriculture, medicine, and product development. O'Hara is one of more than 70 Cal State East Bay students who passed the course.
There's my certificate that I got once I was done.
She is a part of Green Flowers' push to fill the job gap in the cannabis industry. According to a recent report, there were more than 78,000 cannabis market jobs in the state last year, a potentially alarming trend.
There is some compression happening in the cannabis industry here in California, but it doesn't mean that there's still a real dearth of opportunity.
Opportunities Green Flower CEO Max Simon is optimistic his students will take in an industry that is facing some pushback.
Still have a federal contradiction to the state laws, and that creates all sorts of challenges from a banking or a compliance or a fundraising standpoint. I actually think we're very, very close to some federal reform, which will fundamentally change the industry in pretty dramatic ways.
According to the 2024 California Cannabis Market Report, the number of active licenses decreased by 18% last year. Some of those reasons: increased costs, regulatory compliance, and competition with unlicensed cannabis markets. But Simon says his company's online program and network will be a catalyst to boost the workforce in California.
Whether you're a lawyer or a doctor or a finance specialist or an investment banker that take these programs and then add cannabis to their practice.
And O'Hara fits right in. In addition to working in biotech, she is now actively looking for contract jobs in the cannabis industry.
People like me who've already done some things, but this is just another interesting twist that I hopefully can use my previous skills with.
O'Hara hopes to inspire others that it's never too late to try something new, even in the midst of your career, because you never know where it will take you next.
When we come back, it is one of the most famous waves in the world. But what lies underneath may actually be even more jaw-dropping. We solve the mystery of Mavericks next. Welcome back. It is time to go underwater for some sea life. Ann Makovic will soon introduce us to some Mavericks interested in reef relief. But first, a new take on net worth. Here's Liz Cook with some whale-safe crab cages.
San Francisco's Fisherman's Wharf, known to many as a tourist attraction, harbors a small fleet of fishing boats that might otherwise be catching crabs this time of year. But not now. Migrating endangered humpback whales are swimming in the same waters outside the Golden Gate where crabs are. And long lines of rope fishermen traditionally used to pull up crab cages have entangled too many humpbacks. 922 have been maimed or killed since 2007, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. But Brand Little is able to keep bringing up his catch from the ocean floor because he's using a high-tech system. A remote-controlled pop-up balloon-like device signals the crab cage on the ocean floor to head to the surface.
It has an acoustic release on it. We have a transducer that sends a signal to this release unit.
But for fishermen, spending another $50 a cage in an already cash-strapped industry is a hard sell.
What you have to remember about fishermen is these guys have just lost after lost after lost after loss. So, there's very little opportunity left.
And this new pop-up gear has its critics.
I was one of the biggest critics of it, so I set out to prove that it wouldn't work. And I kind of had to eat a little bit of crow because after I did it, I said, wait a minute, this might work.
For 3 years now, Brand Little heads out at midnight under the Golden Gate Bridge to retrieve his catch. He says he's not injured a single humpback whale. The pop-up technology he's using is sponsored by California's Department of Fish and Wildlife that regulates the crab fishing season.
This year we shortened it given the heightened risk of migrating whales coming back up the coast.
Chuck Bonham is California's Department of Fish and Wildlife Director.
You're the guy that gets to decide when the season begins and when it ends. What goes into making that decision?
The thing the whales eat for food, small little fish called krill, those krill moved more inshore and the whales followed them, right where our fishing men and women put their gear. That has meant every year we've been entangling whales.
Bonham cut this year's season by 2 months, but the advantage Brand Little now has may mean the $25,000 technological investment he made will pay off, not just in a bigger catch, but in preventing injuries to humpback whales.
An ever-changing landscape off the shore. We now head further offshore to one of the most famous breaks in the world. Here's Ann Makovic riding the wildlife wave.
South of San Francisco, the massive waves at Mavericks draw surfers from around the world. But what lies hidden beneath these cold waters, where the land meets the Pacific Ocean, is equally jaw-dropping. Seen only at low tide, it is a world teeming with life.
This place is one of the places that you can come at low tide and you can see the greatest diversity of life.
Every time it's so amazing.
This is an absolute wow moment, for sure.
Recently, at the crack of dawn, a group gathered at Mavericks to document that life. Among them, mother and daughter Christy and Kelly Bracken.
We're making observations. We're being citizen scientists.
Yes.
The team is participating in an international event called the City Nature Challenge. Once a year for the past 10 years, people from around the world photograph all the wildlife they can find in their communities.
People have made over 7 million observations of nature, and this gives us like a ongoing annual census of where species are across the globe.
Rebecca Johnson at the California Academy of Sciences is a co-founder of the challenge. She calls Mavericks magical.
If you really focus on a tiny place, you can see this like huge diversity of things. Right, you can see seaweeds, crabs, shrimps, sponges, anemones.
Mom. Oh, wow, look at all those. What are they?
650 different species live in the tide pools alone.
We're looking at a pair of ochre sea stars.
Hi, Guy.
Wait for the camera.
You can look here. These are mussels, California mussels. And you can see on them we have some barnacles that are growing.
This guy. Tiny guy.
Perhaps the most mesmerizing find, the vibrantly colored creature known as a nudibranch.
Officially has made the trip worthwhile.
Armed with smartphones, the team snaps pictures of all the wildlife they see.
This place is a really amazing hotspot for biodiversity.
A special app identifies the species and shares the photos with scientists who study long-term trends.
It's an early warning system often in what is going on in these very delicate ecosystems.
The rising tide signals it's time to go. This mother and daughter leave with a new appreciation.
With the current changing climate, we don't know how long we'll have the ability to see these creatures and see them prospering, and unless we make really rapid changes to preserve their habitat.
So that we can just be more aware and take better care of our Earth.
Along with the world often hidden from view.
Coming up, a labor of love. How one woman's rebirth came at the hands of motherhood. We're back in 1 minute. Welcome back. This month, we are also highlighting mental health awareness and bringing you stories like this one, where a bit of good fortune became a motherhood miracle. Here's Itai Hod.
You don't always get to choose your name, but sometimes, if you're lucky, you grow into it. And on this quiet morning, Teresa Fortune is finally living up to hers.
This piece is everything about life and love and joy and opportunity.
All things that feel especially true today as she gets ready to show her first major work of art.
What do you think is going to go through your mind when you see the unveiling?
I mean, every sensation possible.
10 years ago, Teresa was a new mother, broke, exhausted, and in the dark, both literally and figuratively.
I'd actually thought about taking my life at one point because I was just in this pit hole that I wasn't able to climb out of.
The darkness kept closing in until one day she picked up a knife.
I thought about opening up my wrist, and I realized that would be really messy for my child to come home to.
What she didn't know then was that she was suffering from postpartum depression, a condition that affects twice as many women of color, yet rarely gets talked about.
It's called the baby blues because it's like, girl, you'll be all right. We've survived it all. I'm so emotional.
So she grabbed a camera and started telling her story.
Do it again.
First in a documentary called From the Ashes, and then in a collage called Woman of the Earth, that's WOMB, as in Where Life Begins, which depicts a black mother mid-birth. It was raw honest, and it caught the eye of Dante Green, a senior vice president at Kaiser Permanente.
It was very inspirational for me, and it's a story that I feel like we should continue to tell.
And this is Woman of the Earth.
Which brings us to today. The piece is now being hung permanently at Kaiser in Oakland. And for Teresa, it's a full circle moment.
To be in partnership with them in this way, I just have more hope.
A journey that started with a birth and has now become a labor of love.
Know how strong we are, but
A breezy weather pattern settling in now that we've arrived at the weekend. The strongest winds are going to occur today, and this is going to be a straight onshore breeze as a storm system passing to our north is going to not only send a cooler air mass into the Bay Area, but it's also going to allow the winds to get picked up as the atmosphere gets squeezed overhead, and that onshore wind is going to reinforce the already cooler air and push that marine air farther and farther inland. Now, the wind is still going to be noticeable on Sunday, but the change that kicks in is that the winds are going to shift. Instead of a straight onshore breeze at the coast, the winds are going to be running parallel to the coastline and farther inland, more of a twist to become an offshore wind, particularly farther into the Delta and then Solano County. And that's why we're monitoring the potential for an elevated wind threat and an elevated fire threat as we head into the beginning of next week. Fire weather watch is in effect for Solano County and for much of the Central Valley as we begin the work week. We're going to continue monitoring that scenario in case that threat does spread into some of the higher elevations of the North Bay or potentially inland in the East Bay. Not the most likely scenario, but still something that we're going to have to monitor just to be on the safe side. Let's talk about the specific wind speeds that are going to be with us for the next couple of days. Again, varies by community, but you can see just the colors in the background on our wind chart here. It's going to be windy all day and pretty much across the board. Some of the strongest gusts are going to be at the coast. The winds, again, picking up tomorrow, but it's that change in direction that's going to be more of a concern. Sunday, as that wind pivots, it's going to allow our skies to clear, and we're going to see a return to basically normal temperatures. Now, the storm system squeezing the atmosphere overhead, it's not going to result in much more than just some cloud cover passing through, mainly into early afternoon. I think we'll see more breaks in the clouds late today and into this evening. In terms of a sprinkle chance, can't rule it out, but this system just does not have access to a whole lot of moisture. Let's talk about the temperatures, where they're going to top out later on today, and they're going to be limited, running for the most part about 4 to 6 degrees below average inland, only upper 60s in the Santa Clara Valley, 68 degrees in San Jose, normal high is 74. You are going to make it up into the mid, maybe even upper 70s around Antioch and Brentwood, same thing for Fairfield, otherwise low 70s in Concord, upper 60s in Livermore, 60s around the Bay, just 50s at the coast. Inland of the North Bay, you're going to be a little bit less cool with temperatures reaching up to a mix of a few upper 60s and some low to mid 70s on the map by this afternoon. Let's take a look at the 7-day forecast. And we do have some ups and downs. Those ups and downs are very gentle at the coast. We are going to see a warm up back to normal temperatures on Sunday and then low to mid 60s from Monday through Thursday before we back down at the end of the work week and as we head into Memorial Day weekend. Now, don't worry too much about that cool down on Friday. It does look like temperatures should bounce back as we head into the holiday weekend itself. It's just beyond the scope of the 7-day forecast, but it gives us something to look forward to. Bayside, we're talking about 4 straight days of mid to upper 70s from Monday through Thursday before we return to basically normal temperatures by Friday. Temperatures inland, those are going to have the biggest ups and downs. Upper 60s and low 70s today, near 80 tomorrow, and then mid to upper 80s Monday through Thursday before an abrupt drop back to basically normal temperatures to finish the work week.
Coming up after the break, the value of being absent-minded. How one teacher is preaching the value of just being there. Stay with us. We close this morning with being there. In a moment, Liz Cook will introduce us to one teacher putting the A in attendance. But first, we head to Laurel Elementary and a possible suspension of after-school activities. Amanda Harry explains the impact on parents and students alike.
Celi Ramos Vega's daughter, Juliana, has attended Laurel Elementary School since she was in kindergarten. She's now in 2nd grade. Juliana has spent nearly every afternoon in the after-school program.
My kid's favorite part of the day is after school. She literally cries almost every day when it's time to go home. So I know that she loves it.
The program is run by the community organization Safe Passages. It includes academic tutoring, enrichment services, and sports programs. Juliana thrives on the developmental opportunities it provides.
My favorite part of the after-school program is the activities.
But it may all be coming to an end after this school year. At a March 26 school board meeting, members passed an alternative budget solutions resolution by a 4-3 vote. The resolution froze over $8 million allocated for after-school programs. Ramos Vega is a single mother and says she relies on the help.
I think she would be devastated. I would be devastated. I would have to probably figure out another form of enrichment activity for my kid. Leaving work, right, early probably to figure out until I can accommodate either childcare or another after-school program. Financially, it would impact me majorly.
District 4 Board Director Mike Hutchinson took to his Facebook page to express his disapproval of the vote, saying, quote, "The school board was advised by staff not to approve the resolution, and we were all made aware of the damage this would cause. The only way to fix the situation is for the board to vote to rescind their alternative budget solutions resolution. Everyone should demand that Brohard, Batchelor, Latta, and Williams fix the problem they knowingly created." He says on Wednesday he'll introduce a resolution to rescind the budget cuts with District 7 Director Clifford Thompson. The cuts range from 50% to 80% of each school's after-school budget. CEO of Safe Passages, Josefina Alvarado Mena, says Laurel would lose 80% of its funding, meaning they would only be able to support 20% of the more than 300 kids currently in the program.
There's no process for that, and we don't want to be in the position of having to decide which kid needs after school the most. All kids need after school programming, and there's so many communities in Oakland where after school is really a lifeline for kids and families.
8 other community organizations, including East Bay Agency for Children, Youth Together, and Oakland Kids First, would be affected. There isn't an exact number yet of how many kids would be impacted, but Ramos Vega believes it's too many, and the decision needs to change.
It's going to affect a huge number of families, and I know it's not just this school, it's district-wide, so it's a mistake that should not have been made, and they need to correct it immediately.
It's been said that showing up is often half the battle, and that's especially true in Livingston, California, where one teacher is very intentionally being absent-minded with her students. Here's Liz Cook to explain.
Can you tell me those letters?
As the nurse at this rural district in Livingston, California, Lori Morgan's job description is all about scraped knees and vision tests.
Okay.
But she just can't help herself in putting one more task on top of her to-do list.
Destiny, I need your help today.
Attendance.
In a perfect world, the first time they didn't come to school, we would go out and meet the parent or call the parent. And you communicating with us and getting her to school is what it's all about.
She calls parents, and if they don't answer, visits families at home, encouraging them to reach out to her personally with questions on stomach aches or anxiety.
When somebody will say, "Lori, what are you doing calling me at 7 at night?" Well, which kid do I give 50% to? I got to give each one of them 100%.
At the height of the pandemic, the number of chronically absent students more than doubled to a peak of 31%. That's missing at least one day a month. And the most recent data shows at 28%, chronic absences haven't gotten much better.
Be good, okay? Alrighty, love you.
Educators say because of the pandemic, many of the youngest kids never got the chance to attend daycare. In California, 1 in 3 kindergartners is chronically absent.
Am I a bad mom for leaving her when she's crying, or am I a bad mom because she doesn't want to go and I'm still taking her?
At the beginning of the year, Carolina Garcia's 5-year-old daughter Selena was missing at least one day a week on average.
Was it hard to convince her to go to school?
Yes, it was hard because she would say, "Oh, I'm getting bullied," or "I'm getting in trouble."
Missing one day of school at that age is more like missing 3, needing 2 days to catch up. Only 17% of kids chronically absent in kindergarten and first grade were able to read proficiently in 3rd grade.
We want them to know how important it is for them to have their child in school every single day, because we keep going. If you miss some of foundational skills, We don't stop and go back.
Nurse Lori has helped make this district an outlier, dropping their chronic absentee rate from 19 to 14%.
I am feeling happy today because I'm at school.
The school focuses on connection, rewarding good attendance with extra recess, teaching kids from a young age that they are wanted at school, and giving parents such as single mom Carolina Garcia any extra support they might need.
Sometimes you got to fix what's going on with the adults in the house before you can have a healthy kid.
What do you want to pass on to your kids? I call them your kids because they really are your kids.
Yep, they are. I know how important it is for a child to get a really good education. You start off back in kindergarten, it all really does matter.
She is living the lesson she wants to teach parents and students. It's simply showing up that matters most.
Bye. Say thank you.
Wind is the big story of the day. The winds are going to be picking up already this morning and especially this afternoon. That's where we're going to have more widespread 30 to 40 mile an hour gusts, which is certainly strong enough to move you around on the road. It's a straight onshore breeze, delivering cooler air even to inland parts of the Bay Area. So it is going to be a cool start to the weekend. Temperatures running, well, near average around the Bay, but a good half dozen degrees below normal farther inland. But just for one day. We return to normal temperatures tomorrow, and then a big warm-up arrives Monday through Thursday of next week.
That'll do it for us here at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow, don't miss our show, live from the starting line of San Francisco's iconic Bay to Breakers race. That starts at 6 a.m. Pacific. The news returns tonight at 5 here on KPIX and streaming on CBS News Bay Area. Have a great Saturday.